Hey y'all, welcome back to InDFlix, where we break down the shows that leave us thinking long after the credits roll. Today, we're diving deep into Long Bright River, Peacock's gripping and emotional limited series. It's a haunting story about sisters, addiction, and the gray spaces between right and wrong. And trust me, this one cuts deep. Spoiler alert, we'll be talking about major plot twists, so watch at your own risk. Set in a struggling Philly neighborhood, Long Bright River introduces us to a world where opioid addiction isn't a subplot, it's the setting. The community is cold, quiet, and forgotten. That atmosphere becomes a character in itself, one that never lets you breathe easy. Our story follows Mickey, a cop who patrols the same streets where she once played as a kid and where her sister Casey now disappears into the night. Everything shifts when Mickey realizes her sister is missing. Women are turning up dead on Kensington, and Mickey fears Casey might be next. She sees all the girls that Casey usually hangs around. Her and her partner, who kind of taught her the streets, are looking after the girls. No one else is looking after them. They're making sure they're safe and protected. And obviously, these girls in these conditions, they need that, although, they maybe have some type of addiction. We have prostitution going on the streets. They still have someone safeguarding them. And with Casey now being on the street and that being her sister, and that's unbeknownst to a lot of people in her department, she still has an eye out for her. So her noticing these girls ended up missing and being murdered, they're showing up as an overdose, but they're connecting patterns of this may be a killing because the girls that are showing up dead also have large amounts of insulin in their body. And none of them are diabetic or anything is wrong with their blood sugar levels. So it doesn't make sense. And the more that, Mickey is unable to locate Casey, the more she's feeling like she's probably next. And Mickey's instincts are sharp, but every time she brings this up to her captain, it gets shut down every time. She's told to let it go, but it's not an option. This is her sister we're talking about. And although she's just a patrol cop, she's doing some hard digging of detective work during this. She's trying to follow patterns of who the girls may be around, who her sister has associated herself with, just trying to follow all the steps that can lead to finding her sister and finding out who is out here killing these girls. Mickey's following a trail of overdoses. She walks into danger more than once. She's feels like she's being followed by this red pickup truck, which then she realizes, hey, this is the same truck Casey was last seen in. So our murderer, she's starting to think, is now after her, and she's in full protection mode. These scenes, they built so much tension, just reminding us the truth doesn't come easy and safety is never guaranteed, no matter what position you're in. Me some of the characters. So, along with Mickey, we see scenes with her son, Thomas, and then her grandfather who actually raised her. Background: Mickey's mother passed away due to an overdose. And the grandfather didn't trust their father to take care of the girl, so he took care of them, and he's been that father figure for Mickey and for her sister and also for her son Tommy. And you can see his protection. That's the way he shows his love. He's not the, I guess, usual grandfather who's so nurturing and empathetic and sensitive. He's one of those like tough grandparents who feel like maybe they have to be tough on them so they don't fall in the same patterns that their parents did. Then we meet Simon Faust. Now, Simon is Tommy's biological dad. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I really thought he could have been it. He is not in most scenes, but he plays a really big part in this whole show. Um, he basically groomed Mickey, because Mickey, when she was younger, her and her sister went to this police academy for kids, and he was one of the teachers there. Um, and Simon had an eye for Mickey. And this is, mind you, Mickey was probably maybe 14 at the time she's met him. And she basically grew up with him being her groomer. They were in a relationship. They lived together, all that. And it got to a point where, obviously they went their separate ways. But she started thinking maybe it's him, just watching the patterns, how he reacted or acted towards her sister. And she's following him. She realizes that he also messes with the girls of the night on Kensington. So this has her thinking, okay, if you're doing this, you probably did it with my sister as well. Because he has a thing for younger women. And then the big reveal we find out is that Tommy isn't really Mickey's son. Tommy's mother is Casey, and his father is Faust. So we already know what happened there. He cheated on Mickey with her sister and basically took advantage of her because, again, her sister has an addiction, and she's one of the Kensington women as well. So there was a lot of clues leading up to him being the one who's done it, but he had an alibi, y'all, and it was not Mr. Faust. And then we have Simon. Simon was Mickey's partner when she first started on the force. He's kind of the one who showed her the ropes. He's the one who brought her to Kensington and show how much he cared for the women and had empathy for them. And he was put on leave due to a situation that occurred with both of them while in the field. But this was a person that Mickey trusted. Her current partner, he was new, so she didn't feel like he'd get it, and he was also really close to the captain. So Sam is someone who she leaned on to help her investigate further into what's going on, and he was right there next to her through the entire time. And it was way more than working partners. You can definitely tell he was growing feelings and attraction for her, and then vice versa, and they turned into a love interest, and they were able to nurture into something. That Tommy also liked Sam. He was coming around doing family things, Christmas, Thanksgiving. And I felt like she needed someone who kind of understood who she was, and accepted that. And also someone she could just rely and depend on. He did everything he could to protect her through, any mishaps. Of course, she's not going to listen. It's her sister. She's craving and wanting to get to. So, but I liked his character. I'm not going to lie. I thought he could have been another suspect in this whole murder. Because, you could be blinded by love. You just never know. And then we have, Tommy, Mickey's son. Mickey at the time believed her sister was unfit to parent due to her addiction. So Mickey did what most people do and legally took Thomas and raised him as her own son. So Thomas has no knowledge that Mickey is not his biological mother. And, eventually she may have that discussion with him. But, she's doing all that she can to take care of her son. He doesn't really know much about Casey. Mickey has made it a point to keep them separate, especially while, Casey's on this path or journey that she's on. So, I'm sure if there was going to be other seasons after this, it may catch Tommy by surprise, like I'm sure it does for many kids out there who are unaware they're being raised by people who aren't their biological parents. But I feel like Mickey did what she needed to do. She protected that boy from whatever harm or danger that could have came about, and yeah, she's really his mother. And another big twist in the show was Casey and Mickey's father, Daniel Fitzpatrick, pops up. The grandfather G had told us that daddy was dead. So they thought this whole time he was dead, but he in fact was alive. And then we come to find out he's the one who's been driving. He drives the red truck, and he's been quietly watching over them, unbeknownst to them. And this is where we find out, Mickey sees that Casey is fine and actually has been staying with their father this whole time. Casey and Mickey had this little hiding place in their grandfather's house where I guess Casey had found all the birthday cards or letters their dad had sent and kept them tucked away in there. And that's where Mickey was able to find it. And she went to the address out in Delaware. And yeah, he is alive. So this was a huge twist. Because, this whole time we're thinking Casey's been kidnapped. And this is when we realized she actually was not kidnapped. She left on her own. And another big surprise was she's actually pregnant. Yeah, so Mickey and Casey kind of just reconnect. And I like Casey's character. You see her kind of evolving. She does meet Thomas, but she doesn't disclose to him, hey, I'm your mom. He's very fond of her. He's thinking that they're just cousins, which can be, tricky as he gets older if more questions are being asked. But I think Mickey, she's happy that Casey is safe. Casey ran away because she didn't want Mickey to take this baby now that she's pregnant with, like she did Thomas. And she's been working on herself. She's been at her dad's house, getting clean. So basically trying to prove to her sister, look, I can do this without you, because they made a vow when they were younger, they would take care of each other. And then once that, started to dismantle, and Mickey started doing her own thing, Casey started becoming independent and starting to make better decisions for herself. So then here it goes back to the investigation. Casey goes out to one of the women from Kensington to try to find answers of who this serial killer is. And this is when it gets really bad and ugly. So again, she goes to talk to the girl. Mickey has not heard from her. So Mickey goes and searches for Casey once again. And then Casey then tells her that the guy that is the killer is Sam. And of course, this is just ringing alarms in Mickey's head. She's trying to figure out what do you mean is Sam? Did she say Sam? She's like, yes, it's Sam. This is the guy that I've been, basically falling in love with, having around my child. And these girls are saying Sam is the murderer of all these other killings. So what does Mickey do? She goes and investigates. Well, actually, not even really investigate. She went to go and confront Sam and ask him. But as she pulled up to his house, he was leaving and he had like a duffel bag. And this is triggering her like, okay, where is he going? Is he about to act on what he's being accused of? So she follows him to a bando, and she sees him with one of the girls from Kensington, and he's like leaned over and he basically has a needle, like he's about to inject her with something. And obviously her initial thought is going to be, oh, that must be the insulin, or he's taking her out. So she pulls out her gun and he gets up, and then just fast forward, basically the girl is revived, and then she notices there's a first aid kit, and he was actually there to save her. I guess this was like a house call, and the girl needed help. And this is what he does. He comes out, even though he's on leave, he still wants to be out here and protect and save this girl. But that action of her pulling her gun out on him led to him no longer wanting anything to do with Mickey. The trust is gone. And I don't blame him. Like, it reached another level. I don't blame either one. Like Mickey was just hit with it could be Sam. And then it looks like he's doing what he's being accused of. And then I get why he's like, you know what, I'm off you. Like, you should know me better than this. You could have asked, but it's a tricky dilemma. But that was basically the end of their relationship. There was like no turning back. So we're still trying to figure out who is this killer. So Mickey goes back and talks to her sister to get the exact words that were said. And her sister then tells her that the killer was Mickey's partner. So again, Mickey was assuming it was Sam. And she's like, well, he hasn't been my partner since he's been on medical leave for months now. Her new partner is Eddie Lafferty. And this instantly is like, oh my gosh, how are the signs not there? She quickly tells the detective. They go to his house. They find all the insulin jars in his fridge. It's crazy. So she discovers that Lafferty is the killer. And this is all in the final episode. She confronts him in an abandoned church, and he basically confesses. He says, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. It just got out of hand. And basically the murder stemmed from his exploitation of vulnerable women and being threatened with exposure. And as he admits his crimes, Mickey's sister, Casey, and a group of the victims confront him. And then it all ends with one of them shooting him. And Mickey fires the final shot, standing, with the survivors of what happened. So it's crazy how the tables just twist. First we were looking at Truman, and it wound up actually being Eddie, her new partner. I'm just happy that this was able to get finished and finalized, and I guess a sense of victory for all of the victims on Kensington. And that's basically it for this show. Long Bright River moved me. I hope it moves you if you do decide to watch it. There's a lot of twists, a lot of storylines. I definitely enjoyed this show on Peacock. Even in all those, a limited series, it's 8 episodes. They're long episodes at that, so it's a nice binge. If you're into that mystery, thriller, drama type series. So if Long Bright River moved you like it did me, if you watched it already, leave a comment with the moment that stuck with you the most. Don't forget, like, subscribe, and ring that bell. We've got more recaps, reviews, and drama breakdowns coming your way. I'll see you guys next time.